Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking about how I tried out CrossFit for not 30 days, not 60 days, but for 4 years. That's right, there's too many of these viral videos that say, I tried X and Y for 30 days, but how many can say that they've tried it for 4+ years? So the exact amount of time that I've done CrossFit is, it's probably 4.5 years, but I'm just going to round down to 4 years to give it a nice whole number. And so in that time, I have gone probably to about 4 classes on average per week from the beginning. And I want to talk about my results, whether it was worth it, whether it was not. And the four class per week average includes the COVID-19 quarantine, since they did offer remote classes. And guys, if you need proof, I post a lot of CrossFit stuff on my Instagram over the years, on even my Facebook pages, which very few people follow, but I'll post it on there too. And I even have old YouTube videos of me doing some of the workouts, like the Memorial Day Murph. I've done that every year since. So here's my thoughts and my story with CrossFit. When I started out, I was young and naive, and I thought I could do 6 days a week, which was basically the max you could go. They were closed on Saturday and Sunday, but you could squeeze in a Saturday morning class. So if you did 5 on the weekdays and then 1 on the weekend, that was 6. And sometimes they would have a single workout on Sundays as well. And so I was young and naive, and I was willing to put in the work as well. I was someone who was willing to work. And so I did a lot of class early on. It was very abnormal, and I was, at the time, very proud of it. Obviously, though, it was very hard on my mind, because it was so different of a workout. And soon I learned from other classmates that they were going maybe twice a week at that. 3 times if they're lucky. And so I already knew I was kind of putting in more work than the average person. Now, if you've never done a CrossFit workout, they're pretty darn intense. There's no way of denying that. The strength portions often have lower rep counts and higher weights, and involve not just powerlifting movements, but weightlifting movements as well. And so I remember, the first year it was tough. It took a long time for me just to really get the movements down, because they were very complex, and I kind of looked pretty bad in a lot of them. So that was my first year, and it was a shocking but enriching experience. I never would have thought I would have done something so hardcore, coming from the more nerdy side that I was. And the Metcons, which are more of the aerobic aspects of the workouts in the classes, are probably what people know CrossFit best for, or think about when they try out CrossFit. And let me tell you, I've never been more proud of myself, but also more exhausted during those workouts. A lot of them are designed to have you gasping for breath after those 10, 15, 20 minutes. And that's why a lot of people will kind of drop to the floor. They'll be on their hands and knees. They'll be just choking for air after it. But there was also a lot of kind of work at your own discretion. I saw a lot of times where classmates would just kind of take it easy on themselves when no one was looking or no one was really pushing them. And at least for me, my perception was I, most of the time, really pushed way beyond where I had to, where I could have stopped. And so I was really happy about that and proud because of how hard I pushed and how much it pushed me. Now, there's some downsides. I think sometimes I would push really, really hard and no one would notice or care, or even realize how hard I pushed past my pain threshold and kept going. But, nonetheless, some good sides was that I did I was very shy, and I was able to develop some friends there. And since it's a community where you keep seeing the same people, it's easier to go up to them and make friends versus somewhere like a commercial gym, which I tried previously before CrossFit. And that's just very difficult because they're basically strangers to you. You may not see them again for weeks. Um, I will say it's still not easy for me to make friends, but it's definitely a more welcoming atmosphere. So I think you've heard enough. Like, what were the results? Now, I did put in a lot of work. I'm talking a lot of work, and I saw a lot of strength gains. In terms of mass gains, which is what I wanted, I mean, a lot of people who say that, like, at least people off the internet or people who just kind of see me in person, they think, I have a little bit of muscle, but not much, which is a bit disappointing because of basically all the progress I've made in CrossFit in terms of other numbers. You can measure your CrossFit results in many ways. One is sheer strength gains. I think my deadlift went from around 200 to 300 pounds. Um, and my squat jumped up as well. These are 1 rep max numbers from probably around 150, 175 to like 250. And so there's strength ways you can measure my progress over those 4 years of like intense work. And there's also uh, there's also kind of the aerobic ways. So basically, they time how fast you finish some of these workouts. Cindy, a lot of the workouts are named after veterans or people of the Army or Navy or Air Force who died in combat, and they're designed to be very intense. So there's all these workouts like Cindy, Fran, and so forth, and many of them are timed. And so I've seen myself, because you sometimes run into the same workouts and you record your previous score. I see myself shave off minutes from my previous times. And so aerobically, like my heart muscles, my cardiovascular muscles, my general health is much, much better. I'm much faster on my feet, and I could do things that would leave most people very winded. Um, and it's very intense. I mean, if you have to do 50 burpees and then cycle like clean and jerks and thrusters and other stuff in between, that will just suck the air out of you. So that's something that has been helpful. I think the unfortunate part of it is mass size. That's something, of course, that I did care about, and over the years, I've started to kind of shift to other metrics of measuring my health and my happiness because I just got very negative and very down on myself at times when I would measure myself in that way. But it is something that does get brought up when others discuss, my goals, or they try and measure me or give me advice. You know, especially strangers or some, even people with good intentions. They'll say, you're not. You look kind of like you don't even work out. Like CrossFit didn't really benefit you. So that is a very disappointing thing. But when you actually look closely, like I do have muscle mass, but maybe it's more kind of like, what's it called, slow twitch or fast, or I don't know the term, but like it's very dense muscle rather than like for size. So maybe my strength has gone up, but my size hasn't really gone up in commensurately because of maybe just the lower rep ranges that it happens to have in CrossFit. That being said, we also work in high rep ranges as well. We have a lot of volume. Just the other day, we did a ton of volume. I'm talking like 5 sets of 10 front squats until failure. And so there's a lot of volume. Sometimes we'll do hundreds of reps of deadlifts, not hundreds, 100. And so yes, we do have a lot of 3 rep or 2 rep or 5 rep numbers, and I wasn't very happy about that, which is why oftentimes on the side after class I'll do some of my own extra supplementary work, just a little bit when I had time. But that is one thing that's worth noting. Some people have said like my chest has like increased in size, and it's one of those things where people who have known me 2 or 3 years ago and they see me now, they're like, wow, you've packed on some muscle. You've got your chest has gotten bigger, and I've heard that several times unsolicited. But when people just see me point blank, even people who are new to CrossFit and they enter class and they see me, for some reason, they assume that I'm new as well, that I've never done CrossFit before. It's rather unfortunate, and it really does irk me sometimes, but I try and have a healthy, playful, positive attitude about it and let it slide off my shoulders. So it's clear that perception-wise, just from point blank, if they've never seen me before, they think that, I'm just that normal size guy. But, when I demonstrate my strength, when they see me doing as much weight as I am, when I'm squatting or deadlifting, or they see how cleanly my clean and jerk form is, I think that's when they start to assume maybe he's been doing this for a little bit longer. And so there's one other way that CrossFit can measure like gains in performance. So one would be, as I mentioned, the strength gains. The second would be finishing in a shorter time. And then a third, you could say, would be the amount of work, the amount of repetitions or rounds that you get done. So another common CrossFit workout for the Metcon involves not basically a set time, let's say 10 minutes, and then a certain set of activities. You could almost call it circuit training. And then you do as many rounds as possible in that time. So if you do more rounds, you can get better. And some of the movements in them can get very intense. 500 meters of rowing, then 10 thrusters, all this type of stuff. And I have seen gains in that as well. Even sometimes rivaling people who have done CrossFit longer. A lot of the workouts, especially the weightlifting ones, I still can't compare, but there are certain subdivisions in that, and it's different based off your body and your own preferences and your own genetics. But for me, there are certain workouts mostly involving more calisthenics or less weights. We're talking stuff with the burpees, with the rower, and squats sometimes, that I've been able to pump out more rounds or just as many rounds as some of the veterans here who can out deadlift, out clean and jerk me, out snatch me by sometimes a lot more weight. And so I've seen gains there as well. So my fitness journey, it's not over, but it's been a long time. I tried to for about like 5 years before that, I tried a bunch of different things on my own to try and build a consistent routine. Then I finally nailed something down at Planet Fitness, and then for about 2 years I was very consistent, and I went to the gym like 5 days a week at least. And then I translated that over and tried out CrossFit, and it was a whirlwind journey that I don't think I would regret doing, for various reasons. One, I made friends, and friends was something that was tough for me to make. Some of these friends are more acquaintances. Some, one or two in particular, I may stay in touch with for the rest of my life. And that's something that's rare and hard to find. Two, yes, in terms of maybe size gains, which is one of the things I wanted, I didn't necessarily see what I wanted, and it is disappointing. And some people, CrossFit owners may tell me stuff to kind of ease my tensions or say something otherwise, but it is something that objectively on some level is a bit of a disappointment. People see me, and I guess part of me wants that perception of, hey, this guy really put in the work at the gym, because I did a lot of it. But I gained across a lot of other avenues that one could argue are just as important, if not more. I mean, health and aerobic heart capacity, that's incredibly valuable. And then third thing is just general experiences and memories of this crazy skill set. A lot of people can make these quick 30-day challenge videos of doing CrossFit, but for me it was such a crazy, amazing memory, because I never would have thought in a million years that I would be doing this. Um, if you had asked me 5 years ago, I was more that skinny, nerdy Asian guy, and I I was naturally intimidated by these big, muscular guys slamming down hardcore barbells. But having done it for so long, I mean, I'm talking probably over 1,000 sessions over the last 4 years and 1,000 classes. It's become so routine that I'm not intimidated in the slightest. It's like I know exactly what to do. I don't even have to hear what the teacher says most of the time because I've heard it a million times. And so I know the movements, I know everything, Turkish get up, windmills, snatch movement. Obviously, there's always room to improve because they're complex movements, but I know it so well, and it was really kind of a fluke that it happened, and I encourage you to potentially, put aside your doubts and at least give something a try. At least, give it a try, even 2 tries before you just make conclusions before you ever try anything. And for me, that fluke happened because I saw some free trials and a Groupon for like a month of classes for like $30 or $40. And so I did a bunch of these free trials at maybe 2 or 3 CrossFit gyms, and ultimately found a gym that happened to be much more family friendly and less intimidating. There's a lot of mothers and parents in there, and people of all shapes and sizes. So it was not intimidating. It wasn't like a bunch of these muscular guys who were kind of cliquey and intimidating and didn't really welcome me or talk to me. That wasn't the case. And so some of the people there were just super friendly, and it was amazing. Now I did publish a couple articles on some websites around CrossFit, like boxrocks.com, about the pros and cons. And you can find that exhaustive list because there's a lot of pros and lots of cons, and a lot of complex details about it. For example, high turnover rate. A lot of classmates, they come and go after a month or a few months, or sometimes weeks or days. But some of the friends that I've made that are here to stay, they stick around. And so there's a lot of pros and cons to it. Some could argue that some of the movements, some of the instruction can be very rushed, and given these complex, dangerous movements, it can put you in a position where you're more likely to be injured. I would say that can be true, and that's something that I've been very, very cautious of. But with my own personal discretion and using my extra bit of caution and common sense, I've been able to be more cautious myself, and that's helped out tremendously. I did go through 2 very very challenging moments of wrist strain through CrossFit, but luckily through time and patience and working around the injury with other movements, I was able to heal. And part of that was really exercising and working on my assertiveness to tell a coach, a teacher, and tell them, hey, I'm not going to do this. I know you're pushing me to do this, but I'm not going to do this because I do have a strain on my wrist. And so there's all sorts of stuff that's while generally it's like this, or you could paint that as all CrossFit gyms, depending on the gym you choose and depending on how you conduct yourself and draw your own boundaries, you can eliminate many of those disadvantages to a CrossFit gym. And as mentioned, my gym is pretty darn nice and pretty darn cool. So there's still pros and cons. The class is very structured, so the gym's only open during certain times. You don't get that 24/7 hour access. So will I do CrossFit for the rest of my life? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. There will be a time maybe that I might try a commercial gym again. But I will say this, that's something that is a amazing memory and part of my life that I'll never forget. All the memories and the smells, the sights, the sounds of all the barbells clanging. I'll never forget those moments, the relationships I've formed with some of those people. It really is a community, and if you find a good community or good CrossFit gym, you can have some really cool moments. Like my gym had a few Game of Thrones TV sessions, and then we even have like a community session where people can jump on a Zoom call and just and talk and bond. So those are things that are rare and hard to find, and ultimately it leads to what it does, which is a experience that could be good for you or could not be. And once again, like, there's variations on how you can do it. For example, maybe when I'm older or old, it doesn't mean I have to give up CrossFit forever. Maybe I just jump into a session every once a month, once a week, whenever I feel like it. Because, I love those kind of heart-burning sessions, but just not every day. Maybe that ends up being too much. And so it could still be a part of my life, just not all the time. And so that's it. For the time being, I'm going to continue doing it. I'm going to continue going almost every day. And what I've learned is to just be patient with it. Don't compare yourself to others too much, because oftentimes what you find out is they've been doing it for 15 years. Of course they're better than you. Stop beating yourself up. And then, keep growing and keep learning. And if you have a good, sustainable, healthy perspective, attitude, and goals, it could be something that works out for you. You have to find ways of enjoying it. I found that the people who end up sticking it out the longest are the ones who enjoy it.